be so awkward.
It's not awkward.
Could you go sit over there, Adrian, so I can look at you?
You don't want me staring at you because then you're going to giggle.
You're right.
You're gonna be fine. Once you do it one time, you'll be fine. Me and Mary are the most weird. We're nuts, and we can do it.
You're usually sitting over here for most of these. I don't think it's bad for you to kind of interact off camera.
I agree.
Oh, really?
No, not at all.
And I actually watched me and Mercedes do one, and we were interacting with someone off camera, and it's funny you say that. I actually giggled.
Just mean interacting with them, laughing. You can even say stuff. It's very common with a podcast, and it also kind of
like a director makes a comment or producer. Yeah.
Producer, which is when you're sitting here and record. I mean, that's what you're doing.
Oh.
Did you know that terminology?
You gotta learn the terms. Post.
Producer.
Yeah, you just interject.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't get carried away.
No, I would not.
She's not gonna say a word. We'll have to drag her in. And it is hard. Well, what we can repeat, it's hard to hear, but we'll say, what you say. Okay. Once Jonathan exits, we'll start.
Have you done this before?
I did it with Kira, and I had to hit record and jump in my chair.
Oh, okay.
Well, that was before. Now we have Jonathan will edit, so we don't have to do that.
I feel like
so
that's
much.
super weird to look up there and just talk.
Yeah, it's you just I don't know how to say it other than you get used to it. Same way when you film other things, you have to.
I don't
you're
film
not,
things.
When you film other things, I know, but you're not allowed to look at the camera in certain instances. This is an instance where you do want to look at the camera.
Okay.
Because you're speaking to your audience. But we're not me and you are having a conversation.
Yeah.
And oftentimes you'll see me turn and I'll say something that's directed towards the audience. And yeah, I'm looking at them. But other times Mary's like, what are you looking out the window for? Because I'm literally just like, I'm just thinking while we're on camera. So the point of this is not about being on camera. It's about our voices.
Okay.
Okay, but then Adrian, you can do a 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, it's Carla here with another episode of Not Just Lip Service, and excited today because we have how do you pronounce your last name really though?
Smailis.
Is it really Smailis?
It is.
Because sometimes I'm like, is she just kidding? Because it sounds like
No,
Smiley.
that's why when I first met you, I was like, this is meant to be, because people always would say smiley ass. I've even heard before.
Yeah.
But
well, Smiley's makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are.
Okay.
It's actually Andrews though to complicate things. But,
yeah. Well,
we'll leave that out.
We're gonna go with the Smiley.
Yes.
It sounds so much fun. Anyways, I'm here with Donna. She is one of our employees now, but like Mercedes and some other people we've had on our podcast, I got a great story because it's just the one you want to hear from wife, mom. She's a physician assistant, which is a different take from a lot of the people we talk about, to now she's employed by us, but she started her business. She had an interesting little thing in the middle
situation
that I've forced her into. No, I'm kidding. That we're going to talk about, and then now is employed by us. So we always laugh because, and you'll appreciate this, our whole model is to not be employed in med spas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky that I am employed.
Oh, look at her. Yeah, this is so good. But it's also good to hear stories about getting to where you want to be, which where I've come off of that some is you have those people who have that entrepreneurial spirit who absolutely want to own and operate their business, and they're like kind of crazy about it. And then there's the other side of it, which is the team, like the culture, like be part of a company, like be part of a group, friends. Like there really are two sides to that coin, and I kind of bash the med spa side, but there's such a group of people, and I'm kind of one of them. Like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do the grind and do the entrepreneur.
Right.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
but
and that's like what it sounds negative, but like it's not,
Yeah,
right? Like I think society makes it negative, like, oh, you don't have the heart for it. It's like, no, I'm just raising a family and trying to.
I'm an elder millennial. It's work to live, not live to work.
Amen.
So.
And so I have the grind, obviously, but I'm also like I don't want that either.
Yeah.
We are all working to live and trying to work to not work anymore, quite frankly.
Exactly.
Headed towards I am not going to be working when I'm like 50 is my current goal.
Yeah.
Which is very millennial of us. Anyways, so we're going to talk to Donna today. I'm going to start with letting her talk about her story, how she got started. She's a Division I athlete, so she's kind of annoying. Really into running. We're neighbors now, so we're excited about that. But so just start with, tell us about yourself, and we love the details. So, college, where'd you go? How'd you get into, why a PA? Like, what do you do as a PA? And then how the hell are you sitting right here?
All right. Well, so I was born. No, I'm just kidding.
So on a bleak day in November.
Exactly. June, actually. I'm from Northwest Indiana, near Chicago. My academic journey, I guess we'll start with because that's relevant. I did get a full ride scholarship to Indiana where I swam. Yes.
Chris, I know, right?
So I was there for that, and for undergrad, then I moved to Omaha and went to do my PA training at.
But wait. How was swimming? Like how? Like I played basketball in college, and like it's basketball is a brutal sport in my opinion because it's such October to March. It's such a long. How was swimming?
Oh, it is.
Long.
I would argue to say it's probably the most training, and I'm not just saying that because I did it.
I agree.
It's, it's year round, and you're doing your collegiate, and then you do in the summer nationals, and I swam at Olympic trials, so we train you train literally the whole year.
Yeah.
And it really was. Most of the people that I swam with didn't even go to college for academics because it was like 40 hours a week, doubles every day, but I truly would not change that and always would recommend. And I hope my daughter, we kind of joke that because my husband and I are athletic, she's going to play the trumpet or something and get that, but you just learn so much about discipline and hard work and how to prioritize things. And I think that not only carried through to college or to grad school and being able to juggle things, but just life in general. I mean, after that's basically a full-time job and full-time school, like going to actual work when I started as a PA was like, this is easy.
The greatest thing ever.
Like, you just go and you don't have to like wake up and swim for 2 hours and then go to work essentially all day and then do it again at night. And it was like easy. I thought that working was easy. So I think athletics, and I mean, people could argue about that either way. I mean, some people just aren't athletic, but for me, I personally think that it just does so much for development and time management and
couldn't agree more.
Like
and
everything.
Endurance,
discipline,
mental resilience, and like all the you're gonna get yelled at. And life isn't perfect, and you're gonna lose, and you're like all the things.
Yes, and then too, going to PA school, you sit in a room like literally all day long and just have education thrown at you, and I think that was really hard for me because I was used to doing stuff. So I still would wake up in the morning and exercise before school because that's how I control my anxiety, which I know a lot of people do that too.
We are like that.
Yes, but athletics, I mean, I think it just sets you up for success in life in general.
Yeah, I feel like you can, in a business and entrepreneurial world, you can also tell those people who, like, if you're not, it's totally fine. But there's always something about somebody. It's mental resiliency is always the difference for me. There's just a different level of it or a different feel of it.
Yeah,
when somebody
and I don't have the entrepreneurial brain like you guys do, but I think there are other aspects of things that I'm good at and things that are my sort of the positive traits that I have that come from athletics in general. So
okay, so that was a cool experience for you. Yes. And then you went to PA school where?
Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska Medical Center. So randomly moved.
You and 4 people and some corn stalks?
Actually people kind of they have bad things to say about Omaha, but it's actually really cool.
Yeah,
so I was there for Olympic trials, like I said, not to bring up athletics again. Never thought I would actually live there because I thought it's Omaha, Nebraska, but it was fun. I made great friends. I still have friends that I see, and it was a really good school. It was a top 10 program, which kind of was the reason why I chose that. I knew I did not want to stay there, so like I didn't date anyone. I was like, I'm not getting really stuck in Nebraska. But so yeah, it was a great program. In hindsight, I don't know, this is maybe controversial, but I don't think it really matters where you go. Like you get the degree, you take the
it's so
boards,
person-dependent in my
and it's like no one cared that I went there. I could have probably saved money going somewhere else.
I don't think I've ever known until this moment that you got the degree from Nebraska. Like, because to your point,
no one
I
cares.
think physician levels sometimes. I think we even feed into that as medical professionals. Not to get off track. Like,
you went to Vanderbilt, so you're so fancy.
Cool, yeah.
No. But you learn the same things. You have to pass the same boards. So either way, it was a great school.
There is value in education all across the board, everybody.
But just not necessarily where you go, unless it's not accredited or something, because then that's a problem.
Sure, but there are plenty of really good schools that are not Harvard or Nebraska or whatever.
And I bring up boards because I'm currently retaking my boards, which is another hot topic of being a PA versus an MP versus whatever else.
It's wild.
And we've had issues with even the Indiana licensing thing has taken forever because they have all these rules, and PAs, I think it's the money, but we get stuck with a lot of
it's wild
red tape compared to other things, but that's a whole nother
So we talk a lot on here about, before I moved past your school, about PAs versus APRNs versus MDs. And we haven't talked a ton about PAs, although we have recently. Adrian, would you mind handing me a napkin? PAs are they're similar to CRNAs in a lot of ways, in that there's certain states where you think, what in the world is happening? They are just as educated, if not more. Some places you can be completely independent, and then other places you literally have more restrictions than like an RN.
Yeah,
it's like, what is happening right now? So, then we'll move on into your story, but from an aesthetics perspective in Tennessee, because that's where we are, talk about the PA in Tennessee. The restrictions are what you actually, let me back up. Sorry, everybody. Keep going with your story because you're about to go into what you did as a PA and wrap it into that. Like, what are the rules for PAs related to medicine in Tennessee?
Yeah. So left Nebraska, moved to Nashville with my sister. We just randomly chose to move here before it was cool.
Lucky us. Lucky us.
So I've been here for almost 11 years, and I've worked in the same specialty. My first job out of school, I never thought that, no one ever stays in their job anymore for a year or whatnot, but it was I love my job. I work in pulmonary critical care and I do sleep medicine also. I've worked with the same doctor who ironically was my college host, that was my recruit at Indiana's dad. So when I moved here, we'll back up. When I went on my recruiting trip, Caitlin was my host, and her dad is the doctor that I work with currently. Yeah, so
that's wild.
I know. Well, it kind of happened on purpose because I reached out to him trying to find a job when I first moved here.
Got it.
And his partner was retiring, and so I started working with him, and we've been doing that together for 11 years, which is wild.
So is the sister you live here with the same one that moved here recently?
She just moved back to Chicago, and then her and her husband moved back here.
Okay, awesome.
Yes,
awesome.
So I've been doing that for that long, and it was easy. You kind of get into something and you're like, okay, a challenge might come up, but once you do things for so long,
the heart and lungs don't change all
that
often.
They don't change
As it
that
turns out,
much.
they've been the same for quite some time now.
So it's it kind of was easy for me to just stay there because I knew it. I didn't have to learn a whole new specialty. Like being a PA, you can just jump to anything, and really that's why I ultimately became a PA.
Right.
I was initially going to go to med school and then realized that if you do dermatology and you hate it, then that sucks. Then you have to go back and do another fellowship. So I really liked not only the flexibility of being a PA, but like tomorrow I could go do aesthetics, and that's where we'll get to.
Here we are.
I think for me the breaking point was COVID, though. It was a challenge for everyone, regardless of if you were in healthcare, if you were home with kids trying to work. Everyone had their own experience, but really having to work in the COVID unit and with COVID patients was mentally taxing, a lot of death and dying and difficulty. And then I found out I was pregnant while working there, and it was a lot. I just needed to do something different. I was getting really burnt out, and I always wanted to do aesthetics. I always liked to do all the things, so I'm like, I would love to do it, but I knew how hard it was. I had talked to friends that work in plastic surgery offices, and no one tells you anything. They want you to pay them. Everything's expensive. You have to have experience to get in anywhere, but how do you get experience? As with anything, it's like, you have to have experience, but what if you're a new grad? You need a job. So I don't even really remember how I found you. I had done a training program, and we've talked about this before. It was awful. I maybe stuck one needle in someone's head for Botox, and that was it. And then they didn't really give you anything else. It was, here's this new skill. Good luck figuring out how to use it.
You get your medicine from these people, and it's like, well, how do I do that?
And I had zero idea that you had to have a medical, I didn't know any of that, and they don't teach you that either. It's like, okay, now you know how to do this, but they gave you no way to implement it at all. So I was just kind of stuck.
Which is like feeding off of that mentality of these programs, and we talk about negatively about these programs a lot, because that what they're doing is almost predatory in the sense that when nurses and anybody go into hospitals and such, all that is taken care of for you. So you don't have to know all that.
Yeah.
And you certainly aren't taught that in school.
Right.
So maybe you get a little bit of your scope of practice, maybe, but you're really not taught all of the things that go into running like a hospital, by example. So we're going to take that, a group of people who all that's done for you, and we, to the hospital, if we want to learn a new skill or go to a new unit, we will go learn said skill and go to a new unit and never have to worry about it. I feel like they know that, educators in aesthetics know that, and so that's how they get all these people in their class. Yeah. And then they kick them out, and it's like, and at the fail rate is like, we need to do a study on the fail rate from classes. How many people have taken a basic and intro class from these companies, and then how many new med spas were open last year, or whatever the case is.
Or how many people actually go on to utilize their skill.
That's what I'm saying. You'd have to figure that out, but there'd be a way to figure it out well enough without too many variables to see. And I bet it's 3 out of 4 don't ever do anything with it.
I mean, had I not found Smiley, I would have been that person. I would have just been, I learned how to do this skill. And granted, you do one person, you didn't really learn a skill. You learn sort of how to do a skill.
It's a little Wild West.
Yeah, it is. It definitely. I mean, that's how I felt when I first started. Anyway, but so I don't really remember how I found Smiley. I think I
feel like we talked first.
We did. I remember that part vividly, but I don't remember like.
Oh, really? Should we talk about that or no?
Yeah, I vividly remember this conversation. I was at a clinic in Murfreesboro, and it was like on my lunch break, and you were like, sure, we were messaging on Facebook, and you're like, sure, I'll call you. And like, granted, you guys were pretty new at that point. I mean, it was like September of
like 22, right?
Yeah, September. So yeah, we talked on the phone, and I'm like, this person's really nice, but like, there's no way this is a real thing. Like, I was so skeptical.
She's so full of crap.
This is not real. I don't really believe this. But anyway, I must have somehow believed it, because I took a basic class, and it was downstairs before this whole beautiful room was here. And it was like Jesse. I remember Jesse being there. I feel like there was one other person in there. Anyway, I decided to do the onboarding after I had my attorney husband read through the contract, because again, I was still very skeptical.
Remember that. Yes.
Like, is this a thing? Because he does contracting law too. So it was like, all right, well, I guess it's real. And then
feels more real now.
Yeah. So that was probably like October of 22. And then I started my little mobile business, and
you did good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was great. It was everything that I was wanting to be at that time. I mean, I had a small child. She was 7-8 months old, and I didn't really want to be working full time. I had switched to just working part-time at the hospital when I had her, mostly because childcare in Nashville is psycho. But so I was only working 3 days a week, so I was kind of using those 2 days to build my little mobile business, and it went well. I mean, word of mouth was certainly very helpful. I mean, a friend tells a friend, and I have a lot of friends in Nashville, so it was going well. And then I took a couple other, I think like an advanced class, and started adding more things. I bought my pen. When I finally made my money back was when I was like, all right, this is like, I think that's the case for everyone though. You know, it's like you want it to be successful, but then you also paid all this money and paid for training and paid for your supplies and really invested in it, and you're kind of not sure if it's going to work out until you make your money back, because after that it's everything else is just a bonus.
If you do things right.
So I got to that point, and then at that advanced training, I was asked if I would like to take this opportunity, and it was great.
It was an opportunity. I mean,
it was a good opportunity. Yeah. So a physician had reached out to Carla and Mary about doing like a collaboration with Smiley and that practice, and asked if I would like to be the injector there.
Well, let me back up there. We hand pick all of our employees, and Donna was hand chosen for her, not only what she'd been doing in her business, but also the ability to start and run and manage not only the physician in the practice, which as we all know can be a challenge in and of itself, in a good and bad, I mean, at all physicians, but also that there was nothing else there. So this was brand new. So we were going to start this there. So no one toots their own horn. I'll toot it for her. Toot. Donna was selected for the said opportunity.
Well, thank you. So we tried. I'll say we tried that, and we can leave it at that. It was a good opportunity, though. I mean, a lot of my mobile clients came over there, so it was successful. I mean,
sure.
It was. I don't think, even though it didn't work out, it worked out better for me. But because now I get to work with you all. But it was a good learning opportunity for me.
I mean, we could talk a little bit about it. So it was the wrong mix, number one. So the clientele that practice, and we're not going to go into too many specific details, but was not the right mix of clientele. Mm-hmm. They were the right economic status, probably, some of them, and that was the idea, the thought process, but the actual what was being practiced there was not a good mix.
Right.
I think was the biggest issue. So Donna ended up bringing her clients there, which was frustrating for me and probably for you too, because that goes against kind of our mission. It was kind of getting diluted out more than we wanted at the time.
Yeah.
With, to me, not a big ceiling or sky there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. So that was a little bit of a struggle. Too.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of factors that didn't.
Location wasn't perfect.
Yeah, it was just an older building, not something when you're in aesthetics you want it to be pretty and nice and a relaxing environment, and it wasn't that.
Yeah.
But it was fine. Again, I got to do
Practice
it. I got to try.
Yeah.
I got to try to build a business even a step higher than what I was doing, because mobile is. You can make it as much as you want, and a lot of our mobile injectors have done really well. And,
of course.
But then there are other people that just want to do their friends and family, which is also fine.
Yeah.
So this was like kind of an in-between of like working full-time in an aesthetics practice and trying to build my own mobile business. So, but it didn't work out, and that's okay. It was fine. So that was probably September, the beginning of September, I think, is when we decided to pull out of that location, and then I started working 2 days a week at the West Spa.
Yeah.
So that's where I am now.
And you more or less are the manager of that spa. 2 days a week doesn't sound like a lot, but Donna does more on the other days that she's not there, and ultimately will take over that spa. And that brings up a good point from a business perspective that we, as Smiley as a whole, has done, which is Donna is still, it's not burning it from both ends. She's able to do her other practice until we as a company are ready for her to come on and take her on full time, which we do benefits and all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. That's obviously a very smart move if you're in aesthetics or anything and you're building a business. People often are like, when do I hire somebody? And it always is an all or nothing. And I'm so big on it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Mm-hmm. You can find the right people who are okay with the future, like a promised future, because that is what a lot of life is, and then also have something very comfortable where they're able to, I mean, burn it from both ends is the wrong word. I mean, you work 3 days a week and then you like it's...
No, I mean...
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
There are challenges with that. I mean...
Sure.
I do Smiley stuff while I'm at my other job, and I do other stuff while I'm at Smiley, and so... Is that ethical? Probably not to some sense, but it is what it is. I mean...
Who doesn't do something that's not work-related?
Right. I mean, there's just things that I have to do for my Smiley clients that I have to take care of other days a week.
Girl, I was working at corporate HCA when we started this business. So let's talk about overlap.
Yeah, so I mean, there is that aspect of it where it's not like these 3 days I'm here, these 2 days I'm here. Another challenge with that is I miss a whole lot. I miss a lot of the Smiley stuff, and I constantly feel like I have no clue what's going on because there's so much going on in the background that I'm like, Jessie, I think I text her all the time. Like, what am I supposed to be doing about this? But I know that will come with time, and it's not the end of the world. It's not like I'm doing anything wrong. It's just I'm not as much in the know, and that's okay. But I like ironically, I'm working more than I was when I was just working at the hospital, but it almost feels more flexible, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because I know that I'm going to be there, and I love my patients at the hospital. I love doing clinical medicine. I like challenging, complex healthcare. Right. But I also like sticking needles in people's faces to make them feel better. And they're so happy, and they come in, and everyone is happy all the time. And it's quite polarizing, because I loved the ICU. I mean, I really did. I liked the challenge. I liked the mental gymnastics. I liked all that. Yeah, and I mean, like, I like patients
but it's just happy
who are
and
like,
easy. Yeah.
oh, you make them better, whether they listen to you and are compliant or not. It's just a different feeling than your lips look super pretty and I know you're going to be happy with them, but like changing people's lives from a healthcare perspective feels a little bit different. Yeah. Now, eventually, am I fine to get out of that? Yes. But
heard. No. Will have Donna very soon be full-time, not doing that anymore? Yes.
No, I mean, honestly, too, though, like, it kind of comes at a good time that the building and the timeline might be a little while because the doctor that I work with, again, who's like kind of like my dad at this point, is going to retire at the end of the year. Yeah. So he'll be gone. I can stay there, but they'd probably move me to like a weird specialty because I don't have a supervising physician.
Did you hear that? Did y'all hear that?
I'm manifesting.
Did everybody hear that on the podcast?
I'm manifesting.
We'll follow. Stay tuned for more on the Donna
I'm going to create a mood board at home.
This is amazing.
But yeah, so to your point, like I'm fine with a future thing because it's working and it's
there are people.
Flexible.
There are a lot of people out there who are just like you, who are maybe they like because I mean think about that. Another example, like a med-surg nurse who's a med-surg nurse for 40 years. I'm literally like, I could never in a million years. That person working 3 days a week is another perfect example. And that's why nursing, it's such a popular, like, you don't have to go all in. Nurses work 3 days a week or PAs working 3 days. Like, go find somebody who's willing to fill in a day for you because they're happy to work. Because hell, half the time I was bored 3 days a week. I'm like, all right, I got 4 days. What?
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way. I like work. I like working.
Yeah, like I enjoy it. So you can find those people and you don't have to just, the biggest question we get, I mean it, the number one question we get is, when do we hire somebody? That's what people ask me all the time. And the first thing I tell them is it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can find that person and you're just a shining example of that. And also a shining example of somebody who can be engaged, because you got to find the right person. Engaged, as far as I know, in your other job, but perfectly engaged in this one as well. And willing to like, to have somebody who has to keep it perfectly separate and not let it overlap at all is probably not a good. Like I have to be able to reach Donna on a Monday if I have something to ask her. And if you were like, don't call me on a Monday, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably not the right fit for this model of, because it's got to be a double-edged thing. So it takes the right person with the right, again, mental resilience and people who can adapt and be flexible mentally to be able to do that. So we're super proud of you for that because it's huge. But I do need to talk to you today about, Adrian, about Wednesdays. So anyways, Donna's growing and before our eyes. Watch it happen.
See, I told you, manifesting.
That's so funny that you said that. So she came on with us in that capacity and has been unbelievable. Talk a little bit about, so your mom, you mentioned little June. And we've talked before about potentially growing your family at some point. You added on, most people will be like, wow, you have a full-time job, and then you added on the 2 days at the spa, which is only 5 days, but then of course there's the crossover. Now you have that, and Donna's an avid runner, and exerciser, as we've mentioned. So talk about balancing all, and she has a husband. We're not really concerned about
he's
that guy.
He's fine.
Trent, like, whatever.
Whatever.
But there is that. I mean, me and Mary talk all the time about our marriages. My marriage is the number one thing in my life, so there's always that balance. So just walk us through almost like a day in the life situation. Like, what's going on there?
A lot.
Other than running with my husband in the mornings.
Yes. Well, I try to work out in the mornings because otherwise it may not happen. But that's something that we prioritize. So that's something that I'm going to always do. I think working in healthcare, before I had kids and before I had, or a kid, I'm not pregnant either, so don't worry.
Okay, you and Adrian over there. You're like, man, it's raining children.
No, not quite ready for that all over again. But prior to that, working in healthcare, it sort of becomes your identity.
Yeah,
and it's hard to not. I never wanted my career to be like my whole life, but you spent years training, going to school, all this time, and then you're literally taking care of people in their most vulnerable situations, and it becomes part of your life. And then I had a kid, and things are different. And you now have a new title, a mom, a wife, but I grew up in a really big family, like you guys. There are 4 of you, right?
Yeah.
There's 5 of us, and my parents always were like, dream big, do whatever you want, like go for it. So that's why I swam in college, and I swam at Olympic trials, and I've done an Ironman and all these things. And then I had this really great profession, but then I needed to figure out how to balance everything because I want to be present for her. And that's one reason why getting out of the hospital is going to be helpful, because you can reschedule a Botox appointment. It's not the end of the world, and people understand that, but there's challenges, and we have to make difficult decisions sometimes about maybe not doing something that we want to do, or vice versa. But again, going back to being a millennial, it's work to live, and so just being okay with, I think one thing too, and my husband and I talk about this all the time, is you sound like you have no drive if you're just sort of content in what you're doing. And I don't think that...
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I think there's a certain personality that's like, okay, well, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. Yeah, but that creates
a lot of unhappiness, too.
It does.
Like, just be happy where you are. Just grow where you're planted. Like, all those things are real things.
Again, going back to me being at my job for 10 years, it was because I liked it and I was enjoying and I was happy, and I didn't really
it doesn't mean you don't
need
have
to
ambition.
push the envelope to something else. And so
which is a very old,
it's an old school, but that's also the opposite of work to live. It's live to work. I mean, my dad, he had to drive an hour each way in downtown Chicago traffic and would leave at 7 a.m. and got home at 6 p.m. and didn't really get to spend time with his 5 kids. And I didn't want that. We don't want that. And so we just kind of figure it out.
Did you struggle? Because I did not. And I mean, every once in a while, and I can remember the 3 or 4 times, and it was that short of a period of time for me when I was working in the hospital, whether it was at the bedside or as a leader, because all my career was in the ICU and then trauma and then the CV ICU. I was only a nurse at the bedside for maybe 4 years, and then I was in leadership the rest of the time. Did you struggle? Because I do not. So I say this, I always preface it with that, because it almost, again, is a socially people almost wonder if there's something like mentally wrong with you. I did not have an issue not bringing something home, not bringing it home. When I left, it wasn't that I left and forgot about it, but I mean, I could have a brutal day, lose a brutal thing, like have a horrendous thing happen, and boy, I can just, I still
turn
can.
It off.
I can lay down at night, and Bradley's always fascinated. He's like, "You're asleep in under 2 minutes," and I'm like, "I have no issue with it at all."
I think there might be something.
I know, right? I know. That's why I always preface it to try to get the other person to tell me the truth, as opposed to the social norm, which is like, I always just, But was that a struggle with you, or is it a struggle with you with your PA job? That's a tough environment.
I think at first it was. It was harder as like a new grad, where you're learning things, learning how to run a clinic, wondering if you even know what the heck you're doing, because, I was never a nurse, but I'm sure it's a little bit different, because you have a completely different skill set than the provider, but someone's literally giving you instructions on what they want you to do.
Sure.
I was like 20-something years old, like, you want me to do what? I'm going to take care of you? So I suppose, and it's the same in aesthetics, the imposter syndrome of it all at the beginning, where you're like, fake it till you make it, and then you don't really know.
My first client had no clue they were my first client.
Oh, yeah.
None.
Today I saw, this is a side note, one of my first lip filler clients that I gave a nerve block to, and she had a reaction and had a saggy lip, and I remember getting in the car calling Mary and like, I think I gave her a stroke, and like, she was like my first or second client. I told her today, I was like, how long did that last? Because I was internally freaking out, and she was like, it's fine, it was me. She was like a friend, but you just pretend like you know what you're doing. So in medicine, I was pretending.
She's still coming back to
Yeah,
me,
she still came back. New lips today. But at first it was hard, because you're juggling all these new things, and then you're really, aside from school, witnessing really terrible things happening to people, and it was really sad and hard, and I probably cried more at work in front of patients than I should have. But then you kind of, unfortunately, medicine sort of calluses you to some degree, because you have to. You can't take it home. I would say coming around to COVID, it sort of like re-sparked all of that, because it was just like, that was a bad time.
I think I felt myself getting, and that's not why, we've talked about our story with why we started aesthetics and all that kind of stuff, which was for me getting more out of a corporate environment, working for somebody else. But also the reason I left the hospital, though, the reason I went to leadership, because I got into CRNA school, and anyways, the Mary was going, and I mean that would naturally could have been the route.
Yeah.
And at the exact same time, got offered my first like coordinator position, like assistant of a nursing director, and went that route. One was a lot sexier than the other one at the time, but was like, I just want to get out of here because I feel myself getting hard as a freaking rock, and I'm already. Listen to y'all be like, start talking about me. I'm already that way. So to have it callous me further.
Yeah.
So it is nice to be in aesthetics and to have that happiness, because it does still feel like medicine in a lot of ways. I don't know. I just feel like I'm a better person. That sounds so weird to say, but it makes, it's nice that everybody's happy.
Yeah, everyone's happy.
Yeah, like all the time. Like it is very rare that someone is not happy. But yeah, I didn't know. I had never asked you that question. That's quite the personal question. If you brought home your other job, if that was difficult for you. But to your point, I think as time goes on, a lot of us don't. You
see it too, and not that it's the patient's fault, but sometimes it's harder to in your head, and this is terrible to say, to be like, well, you aren't taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And like,
that's part of it. That was part of what was happening to me.
Yeah.
Mine was more. Mine was that, and it was back when I was a nurse at the bedside when this is getting way off topic, but the Joint Commission made pain the fifth vital sign, and that like ruined the world, which I'm all about some pain, but like then you had the patient satisfaction, everything just came crashing down, all about pain. It didn't take me 6 months to be like, I can't do this anymore. Like I cannot do this anymore. Either they have, like, again, and that's all personal, and someone listening to this, oftentimes people are like, and I'm like, yeah, if you're not a nurse who hasn't, or PA or doctor who hasn't felt some of these things, whether it's about pain or someone's not taking care of themselves, or like, yeah, you're, either super overweight or super skinny and you're mad at X, Y, and it's like, well, then you're lying to yourself, quite frankly. And since most of our listeners are medical providers, I'd challenge somebody I'd be like, change my mind, that you haven't been like a little jaded. Let's put it that way.
Well, and not even just that part of it, but you kind of, I don't know. I think in the last 10 years that I've been in healthcare, the management has gotten so involved in everything. They make you do all this stuff when you're just trying to see. I joke when I go to work, I just work here. I see the people on my schedule. I do what I have to do. And then they make it so complicated, and there's 14 managers, and I don't know what anyone's actually doing.
Right.
They make us do all this extra stuff, and then insurance gets involved, and that's a whole thing. And I think it just compounds how frustrated and burnt out people get
it's gotten so complex.
With hospital and insurance, like traditional healthcare, because there's so much red tape, and it doesn't allow you to practice medicine like you want to.
Right.
And we didn't get into medicine to be business people.
Right.
And so it's hard to navigate that.
Yeah, all those things. Well, even furthermore, about when all this stuff come down on like whether it was the fifth vital sign, rounding, and even as a provider, like on a unit, you can't just go in and take care of your 2 patients and make the best decisions for them and focus on them, because you got 87 other things that, and part of that is, and then we're going to go back to aesthetics, which is why we're in aesthetics, because things have gotten so tight, because insurance companies have made stuff cost so out of control, so it's just such an out of control healthcare system in so many ways, and the providers feel the brunt end of that, I think, and that's
because we're the ones that are doing the
work.
Backbone.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways,
what a tangent.
More on, medical.
For more on how much I hate hospital management, come back next week.
We will not be talking about that next week, actually. So, no, but anyway, so Donna found us. We found Donna, however you want to put that. I do remember now. I can just call you. I don't call people anymore. No, I'm kidding. Speaking to her, and now it's just fun to watch. We laugh because we have Jordan in Mount Juliet, who is 4 out of 5 days for us, and will be soon enough 5 out of 5. And Donna's like next, as we move them, our last 2 to be full-time. We're excited about that. Okay, so we were talking about balancing things, and we really got off track.
Yeah.
So June, how old is June?
She just turned 2.
Just turned 2, and Trent's an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And he works here in Nashville as an attorney?
He works for the state comptroller's office, does contracting law for them.
Oh, gross.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Like,
Yeah.
So if you want to be like supportive, but you're also like, that's disgusting.
It sounds very boring.
I don't even know. I was going somewhere with my question, and now I can't remember. You balancing life. And that's what it was. The moment you decided, and you've kind of spoken to the fact that you don't have that innate like entrepreneurial drive, which is like, again, sounds negative. It is not negative. It is just a difference in people.
It's who I am.
Yeah, 100%. When did you decide, or was it difficult for you to decide to go into a med spa, to take a position versus doing what you were doing before? And maybe for you, it was easy. And for background here, for anybody who hasn't heard our other podcast, when I was talking to Mercedes, like that was, for her, it was dropping her job and going full time in her business. So it was a little bit different. But then dropping that and all she had built, which had earned her a full-time business, to coming on with us. And her take, I know, is going to be different than yours because she has a different drive.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. Like, I'm building this business, it's going well, and then the other opportunity comes up, and then talk about how you could have gone back to your other business, which had inadvertently grown because you brought new clients there.
Right.
So you could have taken them with you versus deciding to come on with us as an employee.
Yeah, well then, hot take, my view is going to be very different for Mercedes because I was like, yes.
Okay, that's okay. Well, that explains
100% easy for me to give up the mobile stuff. My Achilles heel is social media.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Yeah, and you're so good at it too.
Hate it.
She's
hate
good at
talking. Hate this right now.
She was nervous. There was a lot of nerves before said podcast. So y'all make fun of her.
Making videos, navigating social media, like you have to make posts, you have to talk, and
trending
it's awkward,
audio
and
what?
you have to make reels, and you have to. Another thing too is you have to post your before and after. It's not like traditional healthcare. Someone was referred to come see you see me. I don't have to have Instagram likes to get clients to come see me.
The hustle isn't there.
So that, and then you also have to do your posts, your before and afters. Well, there's a level of vulnerability there because you're like, well, what if Carla thinks those lips look terrible? Then I feel, you kind of just are putting yourself out there in a different way. So when that opportunity came, it was like, wait, I get to just do the thing that I like to do, but I don't have to do all the other stuff and worry about like self-promotion. Because ironically, even though I talked about a lot of my athletic endeavors, I don't like talking about myself at all. So I hated
this is forced, everybody.
It is. I hated like putting myself out there, so to speak. So I was completely happy to be like, oh, you're gonna basically hand me this job where I can still do all the things that I like, but I don't have to worry about the other stuff.
Yeah. That is funny, and that's why I love talking to different people on here, because you're a perfect example of that. Which again, when we first started, I wasn't too verbal about it, but we didn't have any brick and mortar, so we were very much on the other side of things of don't do that. But through this last 2 years, it has helped me realize why, and appreciate people who would much rather that than the other. Like that. Now it's funny. It's like 2 years ago. How did I not see that? Like, why did I think that everybody in the world would want this? Well, that's not true at all. Like, plenty of people want stability. They want to know exactly when they're supposed to be there. They want to and then not have to worry about some of the excess things. So it's just good to hear you say that, because again, Mercedes was pretty much the opposite. And I've had many conversations with different people trying to decide, well, I could quit this. And Kira's a good example. She had built something for a year and a half, and it was like, she felt, am I giving this up for stability? And ultimately, of course, decided to join us, but it was a big decision for her. I mean, it took us months of conversation for her to get to make her own decision. So it's okay. All the people out there, you can be in a med spa. It's not a cop out. Like, we're all about that business and all about growing your own business and owning and operating your own business, but it is not a cop out to do what Donna did, in my opinion, which is get the experience you need. And you could get a med spa job now or then when you took ours. Like, you got that experience you needed the hard way, quite frankly, and then transitioned it into the job you want.
Again, being in medicine, like in PA school, you don't learn about business. Like, even just everything related to... You hear me preach that
all the time. Nursing,
anything,
none of them.
No,
even physicians. It's pitiful.
No one in healthcare knows about business. So that's why I'm like, I don't want the business side. I work in medicine for a specific reason. That was never something that interested me. My husband, I'm like, what do you even do every day? That sounds so boring. So for me, sure, give me a job where I just get to do a skill, and that's all. I don't really care.
Totally. No, I totally hear that. And some days I'm like, I totally hear you.
That's so much easier.
Sounds so nice.
Yeah, I mean.
Some days, even HCA, like I knew my job. I knew what I had to do every day. Yeah. But then what's funny is, and this is a difference in people, I was bored, essentially. Like, I mean, all my days could be filled up and it's just that yearning for something beyond that. But then reverse that, and it can just be the yearning for the reverse, and that's totally okay.
Maybe I used all of that on my competitive athletics.
Maybe
that was my outlet for that kind of drive. Was just I had to be the best.
In some ways, I think I'm jealous, and then we'll wrap this up. I am often jealous of people who the stability, that older generation who worked for 40 years and then was done. Now I don't want to. We're the in betweens because we want this to work to live. And we want that to end, though. Mm-hmm. Versus, I feel like our parents, they're going to work to live, and they're going to work till they're 62. Mm-hmm. And we're over here, we want to work to live, but we also have enough hustle that we want to not work until we're 50.
Right.
We
right.
want to be done.
Yeah.
So it's this weird in between, and then you have the small subset of millennials, which we're not going to get into that, who just don't want to work. And then I feel like you have a new breed coming through that are entrepreneurial and hustlers, and man, they want to get after it. So it's an interesting thing to watch things flow. Now I've forgotten where I was going with that. Man, I'm sorry to sniffle.
You're on cold medicine?
No, I'm not.
Just kidding.
I'm not a cold medicine person. My gosh, I would die. Anyway, okay. Well, anything else? Any other tidbits you'd like to share?
I don't think so.
Donna's I don't want to be here.
No, that's not true.
No. But as always, if you enjoyed this at all, if you can always reach out to Donna.
Yeah, so interesting.
But really, though, she has an interesting story because she did the business thing. Then she started a practice for all intents and purposes, and then now is doing the working both jobs and working in a med spa in a kind of normal position. And I think that's important because a lot of y'all ask about, well, which one should I do? And it really is a self-reflection on who you are, what is your spirit like, what's going on in your life, all of those types of things that really make a difference. And if you don't have that entrepreneurial spirit and that hustle, and I'm not speaking of you because you do have it more than I think you do or that you let on, or maybe you're just smart, I don't know. But starting a business is not the right thing because it is an up and down and a struggle, and then the ones who don't have that hustle, as soon as it goes down, they quit. And that's why they all fail. That's why small businesses often fail. But Donna's a really good resource for anybody who has questions. You can comment on the podcast. She is Donna at smileyesthetics.com. If you would have any direct questions for her, I know she'd be happy speaking for her, but everybody is so willing to answer and help. That's the Smiley culture, is how can we help people make these decisions. PA specific, for our PAs out there, she's a wonderful resource for anything associated with that in multiple states now. And again, if you enjoyed this at all or find it informational, please like and share, and you can subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on, Apple, Spotify, and maybe Amazon. Yeah, and maybe Amazon as well. If you're watching this, sorry, I've got a cold and I don't know what we're doing. And this will come out, podcast comes out every week at 10 a.m. Also a plug for our Patreon, patreon.com/smileyesthetics. We have a ton of stuff on there about all kinds of things, from business to clinical to legal to Mary doing lips and Botox, and probably Donna's lips are probably on there.
Probably. My nose is.
Yeah,
for sure.
yes. That's a good one.
Look at that.
I know. The perfect nose job, liquid nose job on there. So all kinds of things. So you can check that out on Patreon as well. And thank you again for joining us. Donna, we'll force her to come back out of sheer awkwardness. It's going to be great.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. We will talk to you guys next time.
Cool.